One of the lessons that we learn as we read the Bible is that God can provide for his people. And Israel learned this lesson as God led them through the Exodus out of Egypt and into the wilderness. But it took them, well, I don't know that they ever really, the lesson was provided for them. I don't know that they actually learned it, because the entire time they griped, they murmured, and they complained. God gave them everything that they needed, and yet they continued to gripe and complain. This morning I'm reading from Psalm 78, and it tells us, in verse 14, in the daytime also he led them with a cloud, and all the night with a light of fire. So God was leading them every step of the way. He clave the rocks in the wilderness and gave them drink as out of the great depths. He brought streams also out of the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers. And they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And they tempted God in their heart by asking meat for their lust. Yea, they spake against God. They said, can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Now that's a great question. What did they mean by that? Well, what they meant was when they're out in the wilderness and there are no provisions. I was just driving home from Arizona, and we were driving along the Rio Grande Valley, east of El Paso. And it's not absolute, complete, and total desert, but pretty close. But all you got to do is just look over there toward that river, and man, the orchards, the trees, the crops, the green that's along that, just a little strip down through there along that river. Well, that's what Israel had come from. They'd come from that Nile floodplain. And they had seen the crops that Egypt could grow. And now they're out in the middle of the wilderness, and there's no green. There's not very many trees. There's no fruit. There's no grain to harvest. There's no grazing animals to butcher and eat. They're in a place where they can't see with their eyes the provision. And so they begin to speak against God. We read about this in Exodus chapter 16 and verse 3. And the children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. And so they're speaking against God. Here God is delivering them out of slavery, providing for everything they need, taking them to the land of Canaan, a land that he's going to give them, a land that is very fruitful and very productive. A land that's different from Egypt. Egypt is watered by the river. Canaan will be watered by rain. And so it's a better land. It's going to be theirs. God's going to give it to them. And yet the whole way, all they do is gripe and complain and doubt God. I wonder if you and I, if we ever fall into that trap. If we ever fall in the trap of not being able to see the provision right in front of us or around us, and begin to question what God is doing, begin to doubt God, begin to speak against God. And like they did, it says they tempted God and spake against him. Listen, I just want to encourage you. As we study our Bibles, one of the things that we're reminded of over and over and over again is that, yes, God can furnish a table in the wilderness. And that's what he's going to do with the Israelites. He's going to cause water to come out of a rock. He's going to provide manna from heaven. He's even going to send a bunch of quail to come in to just sit on the ground for them to be able to just walk over and pick them up. God can prepare a table in the wilderness. And just like David says in Psalm 23, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. With my enemies surrounding me all around, out in the middle of a wilderness where I can't see any provision, I can sit down at a prepared table, a table that's been prepared for me by my loving Heavenly Father. Now, how do I realize and recognize that? Well, I need to trust God. I need to keep my eyes fixed on Jesus. I need to trust him, and I need to pray for the things that I need. Give us this day our daily bread. Let me just encourage you today. Don't complain. Trust God. God bless you. Have a great day.